The Pistons are one of the most dysfunctional organizations over the past decade. They were projected to be a lottery team yet again this year, but with a talented young roster and the hiring of head coach Monty Williams, there was hope for a step forward. Unfortunately, reality is often disappointing. This team isn't just bad, they're historically bad. Not only do they have the record for the longest losing streak in league history in a single season at 28, but if they push this losing streak to 29, they'll break the Sixers record for the longest losing streak in NBA history overall. They're also on track for the worst record ever. At this pace, they'll finish the season with a measly 5 wins. We may just be watching the worst team in NBA history. The Pistons have some serious issues, and that list ain't short. So let's dive into the film and figure out what's made this team so bad. First, let's talk about the Pistons' poor shooting. Today's NBA has become incredibly perimeter oriented. Taking and making a lot of threes helps teams to score more points because it opens up driving lanes and helps the offense to run more smoothly. If you're a team that can't knock down the open threes,
gonna have a bad time.
Unfortunately for the Pistons, they rank second to last in three-point percentage at just 33%. Players are left open because teams know the end result is most likely a brick. The Pistons have one shooter hitting a high percentage on high volume and Bojan Bogdanovic, but one great shooter simply isn't enough. The poor shooting makes Cade Cunningham's job a lot more difficult. Cade can get by his man, but he's often met with a wall of defenders, which makes it harder to finish. The poor collective shooting makes everyone's life more difficult. The spacing on the floor is really bad, driving lanes are frequently closed off, and it's easier for opponents to double and triple team since they're practically begging for the Pistons to shoot open threes. The Pistons also have a turnover problem as they have the second highest turnover per game average in the league. And Cade is a major culprit. He's the Pistons' primary ball handler, and while he is averaging 7 assists per game, his turnover rate is super high. Cade puts a lot of pressure on the rim with his driving ability, which allows him to create open shots for his teammates. He also has a nice chemistry with Jalen Duren in the two-man game, but he cancels a lot of his good decisions with bad decisions. Sometimes he has the right idea, but the pass is too strong and he creates a turnover, and other times he simply makes the wrong read, which allows defenders to get an easy steal. The Pistons haven't done Cade any favors with the poor floor spacing around him, but Cade simply needs to make better decisions with the basketball. Cade's passing is problematic, but his teammates are also consistently coughing the rock up. Bounce passes are great to use in tight spaces, but not from the perimeter. This bounce pass by Isaiah Stewart may as well be a Christmas gift because it's an easy steal for Darius Garland. Most teams don't let their starting center try to isolate from the top of the key, and here's why. On this spin move, Jalen Duren not only loses it, but he falls down. And while he's still on his ass, the Cavaliers get a fast break layup. On this cut to the basket, Sasser has the right idea trying to swing the ball to the corner, but the pass is too high, it hits the front of the rim, and Darius Garland is thanking the Pistons for being so generous. On this play, Asar tries to cross over, but he ends up on the ground, and while trying to get the ball back, he throws it out of bounds and it's Cavaliers' ball. A lot of these plays are Shaq to the fool worthy, which tells me they're the result of having a young, inexperienced team. Watching these plays, it's no wonder the Pistons are a bottom-of-the-barrel offensive team. The poor shooting shrinks the floor and makes it difficult for the offense to run smoothly, and the Pistons are constantly shooting themselves in the foot with unforced turnovers. A team can make up for a poor offense with a great defense, but the Pistons also stink at keeping teams from scoring. Detroit is particularly bad at defending the paint. Their perimeter defenders do a poor job of keeping opponents from driving to the basket, and too often, there isn't any help defense when opponents get in the paint. Jalen Duren can protect the rim, but he's been limited to just 15 games, and big men like Isaiah Stewart and Marvin Bagley don't offer much resistance, so opponents are thriving against the Pistons when they get in the paint. Even when the Pistons force opponents to miss, they can't get defensive boards. On this pick and roll, Jalen Duren is out of position to rebound because he has to contest this Darius Garland floater, so Cade Cunningham must step up to box out Jared Allen. Instead, he just watches Allen get the tip-in. It's laziness like this that's made the Pistons a horrible team on a defensive glass. Their transition defense is really bad as well. Because Jaden Ivey doesn't hustle to stay in front of Max Christie, Cade has to cover for him. He tries to close out on this Taurean Prince 3, but that's way too much space and he knocks it down. When you don't hustle to get back on defense, this creates mismatches. Asar doesn't hustle hard to get back in front of D'Lo here, forcing him to pick up the much bigger Anthony Davis. AD knows to go up for the lob and he finishes. An even bigger issue for Detroit is the lack of growth from their young players. In order for a young team to get out of the basement, they need their young players to improve, and unfortunately, the Pistons just aren't getting enough growth from their young core. Cade is a very talented guard, but he's also got some serious holes in his game. We already talked about his turnover problem, but another big issue is his poor efficiency. A big reason he's so inefficient is his poor finishing around the rim. The bad floor spacing hurts, but he also misses a lot of good looks around the basket. One way to get easy baskets is to get to the free throw line. Cade is an excellent free throw shooter, but he rarely gets to the foul line despite driving to the basket so much. Cade also struggles to shoot from deep. He was an amazing outside shooter at Oklahoma State, but after 3 seasons in the NBA, Cade is still shooting just 33% from deep. And the fact that Cade isn't much of a threat from the outside makes him a lot easier to defend. Now let's talk about Killian Hayes. For the 4th year in a row, he's one of the most inefficient players in the league. He can't get downhill consistently, and he struggles mightily to create his own shot. His 3-ball also hasn't improved, as he's only hitting 30% from deep this season. This isn't to say Hayes is completely useless. He's a pretty good defender and he has some good passing instincts, but his inability to score and shoot make him a huge liability. Hayes was taken number 7 overall back in 2020, and with the lack of progress in his game, he's turned out to be a huge disappointment. Jaden Ivey was one of the top rookies in the NBA last season, but his minutes are reduced this year, which is a head scratcher. Monty Williams has played Ivey mostly off the bench this season, but when Ivey has gotten the start and played big minutes, he's shown he can get to the basket, finish, and play make for his teammates. Now Ivey still has weaknesses in his game. He still needs to improve his jumper, tying up his handles, and cut down on his turnovers, but he's played much better when he's gotten starter minutes, which suggests that he should have an increased role. If you want to have a good rebuild in the NBA, you need to hit on your picks, and you need your young players to improve every season. Unfortunately, the Pistons aren't getting enough growth out of the players they took in the lottery in recent years. This is how teams stay in the basement. Ultimately, it's up to players to put in the work and improve their games, but Detroit hasn't done a good enough job of putting them in position to succeed. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this analysis. Can the Pistons finally get a win and not have the worst losing streak in NBA history? Should they try to save their season and get in playoff range, or should they just tank for the top pick in next year's draft? Let me see your thoughts down below in the comment section. Also, if you see a Pistons fan, just give them a hug because they've been through a lot, plus it's the giving season. Thanks for watching and have an amazing rest of your day, guys.